iFilm, London. iFilm, London.
Right, we're continuing our conversation from the other day. Obviously, you haven't just quickly gone and got changed. This is actually a new day. So we've spoke about all your fighters throughout the stable and, you know, your plans for them, how you think they've done this year. But well, the first thing I want to talk to you about is your deal with Sky. From a neutral's point of view, how fair is it, do you think, that you've got all the dates? Just from a neutral point of view, not from a promoter's point of view.
It's got nothing to do with what's fair and what's not fair. This is a business, you know, and you have to reward the people that are delivering, and the people that aren't delivering are in trouble, you know. And listen, I get people tweeting me all the time, you know, do you think it's fair that you've got all the dates? Shouldn't you give some of the dates to other promoters? Well, what do you mean? You know, I mean, I was the one who was delivering. That's the bottom line, you know. And I honestly believe, and I said in other interviews, that without my interception into boxing, I'm not sure whether boxing would be on Sky anymore, because, you know, the way it was going, and even Matchroom shows that we were doing prior to my involvement weren't good enough. You know, they were in leisure centres that were half full. The fights weren't good enough quality. And you know, it was only really when we started trying to be adventurous and be aggressive and going into these big arenas and putting on the big fights that we saw the viewing figures rise, that we saw the look of the shows improve. And I feel, and I guess Sky feel, that I was the one that could consistently deliver that. It's nothing to do with what's fair and what's not fair. You know, Sky is a business. We are a business. You have to back the person that you believe is going to develop the best shows, develop the best team. And with Frank Warren, you know, moving to Box Nation, there was 3 promoters left: us, Frank Maloney, and Ricky Hatton. You know, and I think once you look at the depth of the stables of each of those promoters, and you look at the shows that they put on prior to Sky's you know, new deal or the expiration of those old contracts, for me there was only one choice, you know. And that's not, you know, trying to sound big-headed, but look at our team, look at the depth, look at the shows we put on, but not just that, look at our business. You know, you need to back a business that has credibility, sustainability, and that's Matchroom Sport. Forget that we're boxing promoters. Look at the entire business, you know. And one thing you do when you move into a business is you look at your competitors. And unfortunately for boxing promoters, boxing promotion and boxing in general is a poor business. I've said it before, it's fundamentally flawed. You know, the purses that the fighters are demanding versus the TV revenue and the gates doesn't work. Every now and again you have a great show and financially it does well, but generally the majority of the shows, and this includes every single promoter, will make no money. You know, outside of pay-per-view, this is a fundamentally flawed business. So you have to look at the businesses in general and who can stand up to those big losses. You know, if you lose 50 or 60, 100 grand in a night, how do you bounce back the next week and do another show? And can you afford to do it again? You know, that's what you've got to look at. And when we look at our competitors, and anyone can phone up Company's House and order a set of accounts from a limited company, whether it's Frank Warren, Frank Maloney or Hatton's, you've only got to look at their financial figures and their accounts to see that it's a fundamentally flawed business. You know, all showing losses. And we're the only one who consistently show a profit. And that's because we work in other areas of sports, not because we're a great boxing promoter who makes loads of money. False. You know, we're investing in boxing. We're trying to build a business in boxing. And if that means losing money in the first couple of years, then so be it. But some nights you have a stinker and, you know, you sit there and you drive home and you think, and then other nights, you know, you'll have a packed house and you might make a few quid. But generally, it's not about the money for us. It's trying to build a boxing business that is very powerful in Britain and is delivering the best shows for our broadcast partner, which is Sky. So, you know, what's fair and what's not fair, it doesn't really matter. If you're not delivering, it's like any job. You know, if you're not delivering that job, you can't expect to get a new contract. And I don't believe that the other promoters were delivering. I think everyone was getting lazy. And we were getting lazy before I got involved. You know, and that's criticising Matchroom Sport there. So, you know, we were running shows that I look back on now and cringe. You know, you think about where the promotion has gone within 12 months. Nearly every Sky show was a leisure centre show or a small hall show. Now we're trying to take it back to the big Saturday nights We're in arenas trying to build big fights. And I appreciate some nights will be better than others. Some fights will be better than others. But it's the look and the feel and the image of the sport. It's the neutral fan or the casual fan turning on Sky, looking in that arena and going, wow, just like they do for darts, and saying, I want to go to that. I want to be a part of that. You know, and that's what's important. So what's fair and what's not fair? 100% fair. We deserved what we got, and we'll capitalise on it.
Do you think that, obviously you've been given 20 dates, do you feel under immense pressure from the likes of Adam Smith and Barney Francis and them guys at Sky, that every show that you have to sort of meet a certain criteria to keep your deal with them going? Is that how it is?
Yeah, it's tough. You know, listen, I'm friendly with Adam Smith, I'm friendly with Barney Francis. Luckily, they're two people that love the sport of boxing. And again, obviously Adam is head of boxing, so you'd expect that. But Barney Francis is head of Sky Sports. You know, he's a very influential person, of course, within the company, but also in world sport. He's a boxing fan. He believes in the sport, but he was losing faith in the sport, as a lot of people were. It's a difficult sport when you get last-minute pull-outs, or you get let down, or the card doesn't stack up, or you look in the arena and it looks terrible. You know, it's very temperamental, this sport. But I'm under massive pressure to deliver, because from the outsiders, they're getting a few, you know, boxing hardcore fans saying, why did you give Eddie the dates? What's he going to deliver? Blah, blah, blah. So every time you do a show that's average, it's the end of the world, you know, for these guys on the forums. And you know, I spoke to Spencer Fearon the other day, and I was talking to him about it, and he said, what you've got to understand is there's people dying for you to fail. You know, and I thought, you know, you're right. So, and I've got to learn really to take the criticism probably a little bit better, because it does hurt. You know, I'm a boxing fan. I read all the forums non-stop. I read my Twitter non-stop as much as I can. And it does hurt when you're trying to deliver something and you're so passionate about something. I want the same as all the fans. You know, I don't want to put a fight on that isn't exciting or is one-sided. So if that does happen, it's a bit of a letdown, and it lets down me and it lets down the fans. But the fans have got to realise that it hurts me just as much as it hurts them. And obviously, I'll get a kick up the backside from Sky, because I'm under a lot of pressure. I've got 2 years to make this work, and I don't want a 2-year deal. I want a 5-year deal, and I don't want 20 shows a year. I want 50 shows a year. You know, that's what I want. But if I'm going to get that, I have to keep growing my team, keep producing quality fights, and keep building the brand of boxing into an aspirational sight for a viewer when they turn on that TV and say, this is big-time boxing is back, because that's what I remember. You know, when my old man was doing shows and other promoters were doing shows back in the 80s and 90s, all I remember is putting on the TV and seeing a packed-out arena. You know, whether it was the NEC, whether it's Alexandra Royal Albert Hall. Now, that's what I used to see. I never used to see leisure centres or, you know, small halls with 400 or 500 people in. That's just not what sells. So, you know, we're under massive pressure, and people shouldn't just think, oh, Eddie, he's got it, you know, oh, God, he's got it made, look at him. Constantly have to deliver the quality shows. And I want to build a top card from top to bottom. Of course, you can't have 50-50 fights every fight, particularly when you're trying to grow a young fighter, but as many as possible. And, you know, we had a couple of periods where, you know, you put Brook in with Saudavia, and all of a sudden he beats him in 2 or 3 rounds, and everyone says, oh, that was a one-side. That was a final eliminator ordered by the IBF to become a mandatory challenger. What do you do? Sorry, the IBF, we don't want that mandatory challenger spot because we think that fight's a little bit too easy. You know, Carl Froch against Yusuf Mack. He's supposed to be a decent level operator. All right, Carl went and demoralised him. He's had 8 runs on the spin. Oh, he's putting him in with Yusuf Mack now. Sorry, next he'll probably fight Kessler, then Ward. So, you know, it spins in roundabouts, and sometimes you have to take the rough for the smooth. But I do really follow the progress of what's happening in the boxing fan's mind, and it does concern me, and it does make me want to explain things to them. And that's why I'm talking about doing things like an open forum in London, where I want everyone to get together and just have a chat. And it's only a group of a couple of hundred people, you know, and it's the same kind of people. And I often say to people on Twitter, phone me up in the office. I'm here all day. They never phone. But I want to talk to people. And because if you're transparent with people, as we are, and I think in all sport you need to be transparent. But I can have a conversation. You can ask me any question here today, and I'll ask it honestly and transparently. And I believe at the end of it, people will go, yeah, I think he's right, or that's a valid point, or oh, I see. You know, there's no games here. There's no moves. No one's trying to pull a fast one on anyone. We're all in it together.
What do you think hypothetically would have happened if there was no Box Nation and Frank Warren hadn't done that and he was still with Sky? So it's hard to say now because it's been a year of Box Nation. But what do you think? What sort of position do you think you'd be in? Do you think that the dates would have been split between you and Frank?
Possibly. I think it would have been a lot more competitive. You know, in my mind, there's two big promoters in the UK. That's me and Frank Warren. He's been around a long, long time. He's a very good promoter. Boxing is his only business. So, you know, financially, and again, going back to looking at financial accounts from companies, you can tell it's tough. You know, and it's like any, you know, if you're a boxer or just you're a man on the street going into a job, in my mind, you want to go with a company that you feel is going to be around a long, long time. And by doing that, you have to look at the company and look at the structure of the company. And I go back to the fact that it's difficult being a boxing promoter as the only part of your business. You know, and just because boxing is just one of probably 10 sports that we do here, doesn't mean that we're not as passionate about it as anybody else. It just means that we're able every now and again to roll the dice without any financial worry, or we're able to sustain a series of losses over shows, or we're able to invest safely in the sport moving forward. So in answer to your question, if Frank Warren hadn't have departed from Sky, would they have split the dates? Maybe, yeah. I mean, he's got some very good fighters. You know, that's something I can't answer on behalf of Sky. But all I know is we're an important partner of Sky. You know, we're up to around 10% of their total output, a total programming on Sky Sports. And over the years, we've consistently provided quality programming from Sky. We've never, ever let them down over that period of time. And I think that could be the kind of reason, you know, in this kind of market as well, where you need solidarity, you need a steady ship, you need someone who's creative and quality operation. And that's why I think we got the nod.
Now, Sunday morning, around 6 a.m, you were seen at the local garage, topping your phone up with credit, because I understand you had none, because of a message from Andre Ward on Sky. Pick up the phone, Mr. Hearn. I don't know if you saw it when it happened, but I think you didn't see it when it happened. I think you heard about it the next day. But judging from Andre Ward's comments the other day, he obviously is open to this rematch with Froch. Whether he prefers it in the UK or not, he didn't really give a lot of weight to that because he sort of seemed to get around the question. But you know, what are your thoughts on what Mr. Ward had to say?
I thought it was interesting. I set the Khan fight on Sky Plus. Woke up in the morning, just checked my Twitter, and it was just flooded. Did you see that on Andre Ward? He wants to fight. Give him a call. Like, give him a call. What? Give him a call now? You know, at 6:30. What's that? You know, it's like 10:30 at night. Andre, just got your message. You know, it doesn't really work like that. But again, going back to total transparency, and people tweeting me all week, have you called him yet? Are you scared? Is Carl scared? Call him, right? You know, and this is, as a promoter, you look at that and you say, right, firstly, that tells me Andre Ward wants the fight in the UK. Secondly, that tells me, and I know this anyway, he has very, very limited options in terms of who he can fight. Okay? So, all of a sudden, we're in a great position. Now, Andre Ward is a brilliant fighter. Brilliant. Not the most entertaining, in my opinion, but a brilliant fighter. Right? Now, you look at the super middleweight division at the moment, there's really kind of four, sort of figureheads, if you like. And Bute is at the back of those four now. And it's really Kessler, Ward, and Froch. You've got Abraham's a WBO champion, but he's been beaten, and he's not really in that league. So perhaps three. Froch, Kessler, Ward, Abraham and Bute. Something like that. Now, Andre Ward has nowhere to go. He needs to fight Carl Froch. He needs to fight Mikhail Kessler. And I'm not saying he won't beat him. Listen, he beat Froch very well in the first fight. We got no complaints. I've said before, it wasn't the right Carl Froch. Apparently Andre Ward broke his hand, beat him with one hand. It doesn't really matter. He won fair and square and beat him easily, really. I know it was a couple of rounds from the scorecards, but I had it 4 rounds apart, something like that. So, but by him saying that means he wants the fight and he wants a payday. You know, and Andre Ward is not someone that the television networks are screaming out for back in America. They love him. He's a quality fighter, but he needs proper fights. And the proper fights for him are Carl Froch and Mikhail Kessler. And Carl Froch and Mikhail Kessler will most likely fight in May of next year. So what is Andre Ward going to do? He's going to fight Kelly Pavlik? Kelly Pavlik? You know, not knocking Kelly Pavlik. He's achieved a lot in the sport, but Andre Ward is, you know, and Carl Froch versus Andre Ward in the UK is a great fight. And I know Andre Ward will be a huge favourite. And I'm not saying sitting here, Carl Froch will win that fight, but I'm telling you, Carl Froch will be a much better Carl Froch than he was the first time around. And I believe he can beat Andre Ward in the UK. I really, really do. I know a lot of people will watch this and say, no, but honestly, the intensity levels and the performances he puts together here, I believe it will be a very, very close fight. So, have I called Andre Ward? No. Will I call Andre Ward? Yes, probably. We've got three people in the mix. We've got Lucian Bute, we've got Mikhail Kessler, and we've got Andre Ward. And Bute, of course, wants the fight, like any fighter would. They'd want to revenge that loss. For us, that fight doesn't really make sense at the moment, and I believe he should actually go out and have another fight. So that's probably what may end up happening. I think he wants to fight in March, which is a bit too early for us anyway, so he should go out and have a fight. We want to fight Mikhail Kessler. I've been speaking to Callie Sowland. We're very close now to getting that finalised. It's a fight everybody wants to see. It's one of the biggest fights I believe Britain would ever have, and I just think it is a pure fight, you know, a pure boxing fans fight. I really do. It's a 50-50 fight. I give the edge to Carl because it's in the UK, but two absolute warriors. And then, once we beat Mikhail Kessler, I want to fight Andre Ward in the UK. You know, that's what I want to do for Carl Froch. He deserves these big fights, and I'm so pleased that he's finally going to get them. And honestly, I think he'll shock a lot of people against Andre Ward. I really do. So, and it's not a case of Andre Ward, these people don't want the fight. Of course they want the fight. They know it's a tough fight. They'd rather fight someone who stylistically would be easier for them. Of course. They'd be mad not to. And Froch Kessler is a match made in heaven. Andre Ward said that. You know, those guys are meant for each other. So I think the winner of Kessler-Froch should fight Ward, and it should be a massive fight.
So Carl's obviously next three fights, I mean, you have to probably base it fight upon fight, because if things don't go to plan in the first fight, then obviously the next two potential fights could possibly not be there.
Yeah, you always have to keep, you know, one eye over your shoulder, or you have to keep planning or looking at the other options. I mean, you know, when Carl fought Bute, it was one of those ones where, what are the other options? Back-to-back losses, what do? You know, but obviously now he's world champion. He can really go forward and fight Kessler, win that, and fight Ward. If he loses against Kessler, maybe he fights Bute again, maybe he fights Abraham, I don't know. But you don't look at that. I just think Carl Froch at the moment needs mega fights in his life and his career. And the Yusuf Mack was like, you know, probably the final little goodbye to anything kind of relatively easy. And now every fight is just going to be an absolute monster fight. And that's the plan over this year anyway, is, you know, Kessler and Ward and Bute in the mix to see what happens.
So it's officially been confirmed now that obviously Kell Brook, I know he had the injury for the 19th, got postponed. The venues have moved back and forth, but now it is going to be Detroit, February 23rd.
Yeah, just waiting for a final confirmation from Golden Boy in terms of a press release, but they've told people and they've told us February 23rd, Detroit. Not been to Detroit, actually. I spoke to my old man about it. He said it's an interesting place. Listen, we got the extension on the date. We were willing to go anywhere, you know. You can't pick and choose when that happens. And I thank Golden Boy for their patience. And you're going to see an absolute animal in the ring in Kell Brook, because that extra 5 weeks it's given him there is, you know, he was fit and he was pumping. But to lose that week in training because of his ankle would have put him back. And like I said before, to not go into a fight like that 100% just would be an injustice. And it wouldn't do him, you know, he wouldn't be doing himself right to do that, and I wouldn't be doing myself right to let him go into a fight like that, because, you know, sometimes you can make a decision, not just in boxing but in life as well, to go with something when it's not quite right. And in sport, sometimes, you know, if he would have gone out there, struggled to make the weight late, got into the ring not 100% and lost, we would have always looked back and said, why didn't we just pull him out? Or why didn't we just ask for more time? You know? And we had this meeting around a table, me, Kell, his dad, Dominic Ingle, his strength and conditioning coach and his nutritionist. And they were all telling us that if he has this time off, he cannot be 100% and cannot make this weight right. And we're sort of sitting, and Kell's saying, I can do it. I know I can do it. You know, and I'm sort of thinking, he's got 5 weeks, you know. And if it was up to Kell, he would have done it. But you listen to the experts, and that's why you have a team of experts around you. And when you operate at that level, you have to be 100% because the competition is so fierce and so good. You know, Devon Alexander's a brilliant fighter. But I'm telling you, Kell Brook is going to go into that ring and he's going to rip it off him. He really is. And I can't see him being denied. I really can't. You know, and listen, we may lose a controversial points decision. I don't think he'll hear the final bell. I really don't. I think he's going to be too strong, too focused, and just, you know, Kell is a winner. He's one of those people that I just think he'll find a way. He'll find a way to beat Alexander. I really do. I can't wait. You're coming, aren't you?
I hope so. So moving on, obviously 2013, you know, we spoke about the amount of dates you've got, and I mean, we're going to see a lot of prize fighters, a lot of domestic bouts. Like I said, Kell's out in Finging. You'll probably be looking at other world title fights next year as well, potentially for Tony Bellew and Darren Barker, possibly Carl Frampton, Gavin Rees. So, I mean, there's plenty for fans, obviously, to look forward to next year. But, I mean, have you got anything specifically next year that, you know, you can tell us that where fans are going to be like, you know, as opposed to last year?
I'd like to do a couple of outdoor shows, to be honest with you. I mean, they're a complete pain in the arse and, you know, logistically very difficult, but I think that they're a nice achievement to get under your belt. I'd like to do some shows in the O2 in London. I think it's a great venue. And I just want to really get some big world title fights. I mean, you spoke about all those fighters there. You know, I'd like to make sure that, well, Brook we know will, Froch we know will, but Barker, Bellew, Frampton and Rees all fight for world titles in 2013. And I'd like to have a minimum of 3 world champions at the end of the year. And I think that's very, very achievable. You know, you talk about a lot of prize fighters. We'll do probably 5 prize fighters this year. Yeah, 4 or 5 prize fighters this year. It's not really a lot. We kick off on January 19th with one. You know, and prize fighter comes under stick from the hardcore boxing fans. And, you know, I can understand why they think that, because just like hardcore cricket fans can't stand 2020. You know, it's not a pure form of the sport. It's a fast-paced entertainment show that brings a new audience into boxing, and I find it entertaining. And everyone who goes to watch it finds it entertaining, and so do the viewers. So, you know, I'm not looking to flood the market with prize fighters. I know where we are with prize fighter, and I know public's perception of prize fighter. We're looking to grow it in other territories. But, you know, I want to do some big shows next year, and we have to do big shows because Sky demand it and the fans demand it. Really excited about the first few. You know, February the 9th in Belfast, Frampton against Kiko Martinez, Andy Lee potentially coming on boxing there on a 10-rounder, Martin Lindsay against Lee Selby for the British and Commonwealth titles, Jamie Conlon against Yaqub Karim for the Commonwealth Super Flyweight title. You know, some really good fights on there. March the 9th, looking at in London with Barker, Purdy, Ryder, Ochen, Camacho, all those boys. And then March the 30th, which is a show I'm really excited about, the Echo Arena, which will be Tony Bellew in a final eliminator for the world title. Trying to make Crolla versus Matthews, trying to make Anderson versus Paul Smith, Rocky Fielding defending his English title, you know, Callum Smith coming out there fighting in front of his home fans, and another young signing that will be announcing next week from Liverpool as well. So really excited about the year ahead, and I think this is the year where really we put our foot down and show people and make a real statement in the sport and show people what we really want to start delivering, because we showed signs of that in 2012. You know, Brooke Jones was a great card and a great show, and obviously Froch Butte, one of the best ever in Britain. And we did some decent shows at the back end of the year, but I can understand the hardcore fans saying, oh, they were a bit one-sided, and just because someone performs really well, it doesn't necessarily mean that's a one-sided fight. You know, Darren Barker was coming back after 14 months against Kerry Hope. A lot of people thought Kerry might cause him some problems. Just because Barker was so good doesn't mean that it was just a one-sided fight. So I think major world title fights in 2013, we need to try and somehow find a way to get the big stars over to the UK, and whether that's Kessler, whether that's Ward, you know, whether that's Abril to fight Reese, whether it's you know, Gill to fight Barker. We need to start trying to do that. But the only way we can do that is, number one, pay-per-view. And pay-per-view, in my mind, only, you know, you only deserve pay-per-view for the best fights out there. You know, and probably, I would say there's 2 fights that I could make that could possibly be pay-per-view on Sky. And that's Froch Kessler and Froch Ward and Brook against Khan. You know, no other fights really deserve it. And people have got to understand that the only way you can make those fights is for it to be pay-per-view, because otherwise there's not enough money in the pot. Again, it's very simple. But want to make some big world title fights next year. Love to do Bellevue outdoors for a world title fight in the summer. Again, all our guys coming through. We've got a great team of fighters and some more fighters coming very soon.
Right, so Eddie Hearn, thank you very much for talking to iFilm London. Like I said, we'll be on most of the journey with you next year, and we'll look forward to, you know, what happens next year in 2013.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for your support. Thanks to everyone out there for supporting what we've been trying to do this year. You know, it means a lot. Keeps me striving forward, the negative criticism, the positive criticism. And we're looking forward to delivering for everybody in 2013, the fans, the fighters, and our broadcasters. And get ready, because we're going to put British boxing right back on the map again.
And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, old boy.
Kugan Cassius with Eddie Hearn here at the Matchroom headquarters for iFilm London.